So welcome everyone, mostly women as someone remarked, and we have one invisible man and one visible one. So great that you're joining us. I'm Caro Verbeek and I'm a scent and art historian. I know most of you, so it's so nice to see you here, and also nice to see new faces. I'm the curator of Odorama, and Odorama is a scent culture program together with Frank Bloem, by the way. He just lifted his hand. Together with Frank Bloem, I've been curating Odorama for the past 5 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Odorama is a cultural program, all focused on scent. And during each monthly session, we invite scientists, artists, perfumers, chemists, scholars to talk about a smell-related topic from their point of view, their perspective. We've talked about synesthesia. We've talked about language, olfactory language, olfactory storytelling, olfactory design, you name it. We probably covered it the past 5 years. And of course, during this time of Corona, we cannot make you smell things that easily. We usually work with an aroma jockey, just like a disc jockey. An aroma jockey diffuses scents, or well, a disc jockey, of course, works with music, and a VJ with images, and an aroma jockey with smells. That's part of Odorama usually. And then the pandemic came, and Frank came with a wonderful idea to send smell kits. And for today, this is our first online session. So we always did physical sessions and send out scent kits everywhere. But we came up with the idea to do an aromatic odyssey with the smells that are already present in our houses, but that are somehow connected to history and to art. I'm going to share my screen and then we'll start sniffing. I always like to start by sharing why I chose this topic as an art historian, because you would think that art is so visually oriented. Well, it happened when I was a student in my final year as a master student. We visited the Venice Biennale in 2001. And I entered the premises called the Arsenale, huge building, you might have been there. I entered and I smelled this very spicy, strong scent. And I was so annoyed. I thought, okay, so the curators had a party here, a dinner party. And now my aesthetic gaze is disturbed by kitchen smells. This is not okay. And then I walked, and hundreds of meters ahead, I saw the source of this smell, and it turned out to be a work of art. This work of art that you see here by Ernesto Neto, called We Fishing the Time. And it consists of lycra bags, and all these bags are filled with spices like clove, cinnamon, curry, curcuma, pepper, and that gave off that beautiful scent, well, that I found very annoying at first. But then my irritation turned into fascination. Wow, smell can be art. I need to know everything about this. So I dedicated first my thesis to olfactory art. I think you're all into smell. Is there anyone here not into smell? Can you raise your hand? No, I think you're all.
What do you mean with into smell?
Oh yeah, into smell. Maybe you've worked with smell, you're interested in smell, you know what the word olfactory means. If you don't, that's also totally fine. That's totally fine. I see someone nodding. Olfactory is the adjective for smell. So we all know the word visual related to seeing, but we never learn about this word olfactory, which is simply the adjective for smell. So instead of visual art, we speak about olfactory art or smell art. That's much easier. And this can be considered olfactory art.
Yeah.
So the program for today, that was a little introduction. The program for today, how does the nose work? I think many of you already know, but otherwise we're just going to do this as a meditative thing. Then we'll talk a bit about the hierarchy of the senses and why the sense of smell was excluded from art. And then it gets exciting. Then we'll talk about and smell and taste a special subcategory in Dutch olfactory art. So smelling, and I know there's someone here who can probably explain it so much better than me. Anna, I'm talking about you. Anna de Rico. But smelling is very different from seeing or hearing, because seeing and hearing are wave phenomena, whereas smelling is really molecular shape recognition. So smells, odorants, volatile molecules, compounds enter our noses, and then the shapes of those molecules have to fit the receptors exactly. So molecules don't enter our noses and then enter our bodies. No, they enter receptors. Then there's a small electrical current, and that gives a sign to your brain, hey, you're smelling lavender, for example. So when you smell something like lavender, hundreds of aromatic compounds, different molecules enter your nose, and they all screw themselves in these shapes. And that's why I use this, well, what's it called in English? It's called a vormenstoof in Dutch. Well, children play with it. And another question, and if you know it, don't answer just yet. Frank just found out last week only, I think, or a couple of weeks ago. Why do we have two nostrils? So we all have two eyes. Not all, sorry. Most of us have two eyes, two ears, one mouth, one nose, and two nostrils. Why? Oh, and did I ask you to unmute yourself? I like hearing the background sounds.
Misschien vanwege de twee hersenhelften.
Stereo, locatie.
Stereo, location.
Yeah.
Any other suggestions?
And maybe because there are two parts in your brain.
The two parts in the brain. Yeah, because that's how it works with seeing and hearing, right? It's cross-wired. But in the case of the nose, it just goes straight up in your brain, or even better, your brain goes straight up, straight down in your nose. Our brain sticks out in our noses.
Oh yeah.
But why we have two nostrils is because every nostril smells something different. And we need both of them to get a three-dimensional picture of a smell. So take one of the smells you collected, doesn't matter which one. Could be peanut butter. Oh, and by the way, this session is being recorded. If you don't want to be in the video that we'll post later, raise your hand. Can you raise your hand? Because then we'll just edit you out. I don't see any hands, so I guess that's okay. Yeah.
Or you can leave a comment as well, maybe.
Or leave a comment, yeah. So let's just do a test. Let's just smell what the difference is in each nostril. And it's fairly easy. You just close one and then inhale. Close the other one, inhale. And then please share with me what the difference is between the two nostrils. Who would like to share?
For me, it is the left side. I smell the peanuts, but on the right side, I don't smell much.
You don't smell much. Yeah, it's nothing to worry about, by the way. Probably.
I know.
Does anyone else have this experience? Stronger sensation on one side than on the other side?
both same for me.
Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, same.
More or less the same, yeah. Frank, did you do it?
Yes, I did it. With the orange peel.
Okay, and what do your two nostrils tell you?
Oh, one is more, I smell it better with one than with the other.
Okay, and is it left or right?
It changed.
It changed. Whoa, you were just a witness of the changing of the nostrils. Because
And
that's
it-
where I'm getting at, yeah. So some people, you can try again, maybe with another odorant, it might be easier. Some people will have the stronger sensation on the right. Mine is at the right now. So I smell more like the peanut peel here, and more the oil and peanut butter here. And it's much stronger at the right. But that's because there's a faster airflow now in my right nostril and a slow airflow in my left nostril. And that's where the perception is less strong. But every 3 hours, your nostrils take shifts, and then the other nostril has the fast airflow. And then there you'll have the stronger sensation there. And Frank just witnessed the...
Yeah. I don't know if it was the truth. If it's every 3 hours, then it was really well timed by my nose.
Yeah, because I keep track of your nose shifts.
Hoe zeg je hooikoorts?
Hay fever.
Medicine for hay fever. Can it be
Interfering.
I don't know. Does anyone here know? Can the medicine for hay fever interfere with the shifts?
Sometimes.
Okay. And what also interferes is the side you sleep on. So if you sleep on this side, this nostril will have the faster airflow. And if you sleep on that side, of course, the other way around. Also, if you just hold your head like this, at some point, this nostril will have a faster airflow. Of course, it's very safe because most odorants will end up here, because we also smell during our sleep, of course. We just keep on smelling.
Voor de bewaken.
Yeah, it keeps us safe, even at night. Yeah.
During the night, actually, the cycle is a bit longer.
Oh, wow.
It's around 4 hours or something like that.
Okay.
And then it depends, actually. I mean, there can be some variation between people. Of course, it's a little bit individual, exactly how much is the time, and can change a bit, depending also from like the moment how we are doing.
Thank you. I didn't know that. And maybe then you also, Anna is an expert. She wrote a book on the sense of smell. Why is this? Why do the nostrils take shifts? Do you know?
Yeah, I didn't want now to interfere with your your flow. Yeah, actually is regulated by the nervous system. The autonomous is called autonomous nervous system, which is what, you know, it commands our body with things that we don't need to think about. They just do our function. So this works also. And it's also more because actually, you can do the same. You can try to do the same things that Caro just said with the peanut, just with breathing. Breathe with one nose, on one nostril, and then the other, and you will see that you will feel like one of the two nostrils will be like closed or semi-closed.
Yeah.
And the other, you feel like you can breathe better with one nostril.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is the effect exactly, because we have the vessels in the mucosa in the nose can like enlarge, like swallow a bit or get a bit not swollen. And they alternate. This is why they regulate the passage of flow of air that can't go through. But because of humidity, the nose needs to stay humidified all the time. So if you keep it one side always just very free, it will dry out too much.
Oh, thank you so much. I've asked so many doctors, and no one knew. I should have asked you before. Thank you so much, Anna.
It's really interesting to know.
Yeah. And I had no idea it had to do with the mucus being moist, that it had to be maintained moist. We'll talk a bit about the hierarchy of the senses, because that's the reason why we don't consider smell art, or why many people have never heard of smell as art. And that all started with ancient philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. And this is a Western hierarchy. It's different in other regions. And this is a philosophical hierarchy. It's very different in religious hierarchies. In religious hierarchies, smell is at the top, but in philosophical hierarchies, seeing is the most important sense. So seeing and hearing are the higher senses, so-called higher senses, and then feeling, tasting, and smelling, the lower senses. Big difference between the two categories is proximity or distance. So I can see and hear you from a distance. I cannot feel or taste you from a distance. I can smell you from a distance though. So I think it's disputable if this is really a proximate sense, or maybe also a distant sense, just like seeing and hearing. You can smell things from large distances, of course. So this is being debated, smelling. But this caused philosophers like Kant and Hegel to exclude the lower senses from the aesthetic debate, because they were not aesthetic. What does aesthetic mean? It means that it allows you to contemplate, to think. So seeing and hearing allow you to think. Feeling, tasting, and smelling supposedly do not allow you to think, and hence cannot lead to an aesthetic experience. Of course, we know that feeling, tasting, and smelling can just as well lead to aesthetic experiences and to make us think about the world. Now, olfactory art is something already has a long tradition. It's not something that happened the past 2 decades. No, it started around 1890, mostly in symbolist art, in theater, where artists started diffusing smells throughout the theater as part of a work of art. So as a meaningful layer without which the work of art would lose its effect or meaning. That's my definition of olfactory art. There are more. Perfumers would entertain a different definition. So the use of smell as an artistic medium. Yeah. And this, I'm just going to share one historical example with you, and then we'll go to the Dutch subcategory of olfactory art. And I like this example because it's by a woman, and it's very early, 1913. She was a futurist artist, Valentine de Saint-Point. So a female futurist artist was the first to, well, among the futurists, to diffuse smells during a performance. And she performed a dance with veils. And in the meantime, well, she did geometric patterns, she danced geometric patterns, there were sounds, and there were smells. So she burned resins and woods in bowls, and that caused a smoke. So it had a visual effect, but it also had an olfactory effect, a smell effect. And it was not enjoyed by one of the present journalists, who said there were, I'm going to have to translate, there were exotic and terrible perfumes, idealist perfumes, so that means futurist perfumes, and they were burning in bowls. Poor us, because it caused tears in our eyes, all that smoke. So we cannot know which smells were used, except that they were considered exotic at the time. So it could very well be some of the colonial smells. Let's just name them colonial smells, because in France there were colonial campaigns. So possible candidates would be myrrh, frankincense, ylang ylang, those kinds of scents that she diffused. We're going to skip this one. Yeah, a subcategory in Dutch olfactory art. Yeah, the Dutch are always, I don't know, a bit different perhaps. There are many olfactory artists in the Netherlands. This is really quite astonishing. why are there so many here? And also quite early, not as early as the Futurists, but quite early. The first olfactory artist in the Netherlands is this guy, the one at the left. Do you recognize him? Only Dutch people will recognize him, I think.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. No, it's Wim T. Schippers. Wim T. Schippers. He does Ernie's voice in the Netherlands. He's well known. And he's an artist. He's a scientist. Yeah, so world famous in the Netherlands. And when you ask people, have you ever heard of olfactory art? They say no. And then you mention his peanut butter floor, and everyone's like, oh yes, of course I know of olfactory art. So this is a work of art that Wim T. Schippers made in the 60s, 1969. And he just smeared peanut butter on the floor, which makes it part of this subcategory of Dutch olfactory art. It's on the floor. Yeah, we'll talk about more floor smell pieces. So why did he do that? When asked, he would respond, because I can. And of course, it's so disruptive. A floor is something you want to walk on, but instead you will fall, you will get dirty, and the smell will permeate throughout the entire museum. And this is a reaction to the clinical white cube curatorial strategy. So the museum is white, is clinical, is supposedly neutral. So what did he do? He brought in peanut butter so everyone would smell it. And this evoked a lot of artistic reactions. So when it was displayed in Utrecht, students started doing contests of sliding contests. Other students started sprinkling hagelslag, small chocolates. That's a typical Dutch product called hagelslag, tiny bits of chocolate. And they threw in sandwiches. But when it was displayed in Rotterdam, in the Boijmans van Beuningen Museum, it was very different, very clinical. So there was a double door, so the smell wouldn't colonize the entire building. There were ventilation systems. And then when one man stepped in the floor accidentally, Wim T. Schippers would have loved that, but he got a huge fine. Huge fine. He was nuts. Can you imagine how appealing this is? Could you resist? Yeah.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
but in theory, so from the artist, the work was supposed to be interact, so people could touch it and interact with it, or was meant just to be stay there that you want to but you can't?
Well, that's a difficult question, because once an artwork enters a museum, the curators decide what happens. And curators do not want you to interact with art. Of course, a lot of artists do want you to interact with art, but it's just not something that the curators find desirable. So he loved these reactions, but the curators did not allow for it. And now the peanut butter. Did you all get your peanut butter?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Let's all stir it first.
Oh.
Peanut butter.
Nothing to stir.
Nothing. Yeah, get your spoon. Maybe you can make your own tiny floor. That would also be so nice. Make your own tiny Wim T. Schippers peanut butter floor. But if not, I think all at the same time, we should just first smell and look at the picture at the same time, because that will make us feel as though we're present in that museum. Yes, peanut butter floor. Then we'll take a bite, and then I want to see stains on your face. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
I hate peanut butter.
Me too.
Mm.
I really do not like it. But anyway.
I love it, and I don't have it now.
Aw.
Really?
Buy it soon.
So sorry.
Tonight, after this, I go to the
You
supermarket.
go and then you think of this artwork for the rest of your life. American peanut butter is very different from Dutch peanut butter, by the way. I
Yeah.
don't know the exact difference, but it's very different.
I think it depends on if you get peanut butter, which is just peanuts, or if you put sugar in it.
Yeah.
Because I always buy just peanut butter that's just peanuts.
Okay.
But I think like something like Skippy or like that's American peanut butter. You would have lots of sugar or high fructose corn syrup or something in it.
Okay.
But I'm not a big fan of that. I like just the peanuts.
Okay.
Caro, do you know about allergic reactions to the smell?
Yeah. I know of someone who, by entering the museum, immediately felt, hey, this is wrong, and that person left
Yeah.
because it's the air is impregnated with peanut butter scent.
Can imagine.
Yeah, so that's probably also why they had this ventilation system in Rotterdam.
Ah, yeah.
But that's really funny because that's what smell is all about, to sentence danger.
Yeah.
So he smelled this danger and he left. So that's nice.
Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah, our noses know, to speak with the term that Avery Gilbert came up with. Our noses know. Yeah, they do. Yeah, trust your nose. Yeah. The peanut butter floor wasn't always square. I was so surprised. I found out a week ago that one time it was a circle. And it was supposed to interact with the architecture. This was in 2018, and Wim wanted something new. So it's kind of molded around a pole, a pillar. And this time the curator actually, which was called in housing, actually asked the veiligers, the security people, okay, when you see someone stepping in the floor, please save those camera images because it's hilarious. It's fantastic. And then there would just be one other security person with a knife, and that person would just restore it again. Yeah, nothing fancy, just a knife. So peanut butter floor, from one floor to another. Oh no, someone else is entering. Yunsu Kim. Okay.
She said pediatric.
Okay, yeah. Before this, Wim T. Schippers created an olfactory work of art that was completely autonomous. So not inherent smells of materials, but smells on their own. In 1965, and he called this a program of smells. It was an empty space, white empty space, just some chairs and a light bulb. And then you could sit down there. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's just hilarious. It started at 10, the smell of orange for an hour. Just sitting there, smell of orange. Maybe it's Dutch humor. I don't know. I find it hilarious. And then 11 o'clock.
Genius.
Pencil. That means cedar. Cedar wood has a very specific smell. So an hour of cedar wood. And according to the artist, this had to remind people of going to school, grammar school. You know, pencils, sharpening pencils. Then an odorless intermission of several hours. And then 2 o'clock, anise, which had to remind people of birth. In the Netherlands, we eat a dish which is, it has anise in it, beschuit met muisjes, when someone is born. And then 3 o'clock, the grand finale, erotic musk, and that was the end. Yeah, and people visited this show on a daily basis because they never stay the whole time. They come back the next day and then, okay, today it smells different. And to Wim, this is l'art pour l'art, art for art's sake. No one's asking for this. No one's hoping for this. It's just art for art's sake.
I love it.
Wim T. Schippers. And then another olfactory artist, or at least an artist that works a lot with smell, Herman The Freeze. And you have to spell his name this way because he doesn't believe in hierarchy between animals, plants, objects. Everything has to be with small letters. Herman The Freeze. He lives in Germany, but he's Dutch. And he also created a lot of floor pieces, among which this Rosa Damascena, so the rose from Damascus, very famous rose in history. And he just poured rose petals on the floor in a beautiful circle. He always works with natural elements, but then he wants to do a human intervention, for example, by making it into a very geometric shape. This was at the Biennale in Venice, and the curators had the idea to install this at the entrance so people outside would already smell it and think, hey, what's going on here? And then many people would walk in and they didn't look at the floor, they just smelled, they followed their noses and then walked right into the artwork, destroying the artwork. Yeah, but what do you think? What's more important in this work of art, the smell or the looks?
The smell.
Yeah, there was kind of a suggestive question, perhaps. Yeah, the smell. If only for the reason that it takes up so much more space. But of course, it's the combination. Because of this shape, the artist hopes invites you to become more aware of your environment, including smell. And here it's also in a square. I asked, it's not inspired by the peanut butter floor. He also had a lavender floor called 180 pounds of lavender. 108 is an important number in Buddhism or Hinduism, sorry. So did you get the lavender? Shall we smell it together and then pretend like we're in the museum?
God, I had to get the lavender.
Oh, it instantly relaxes me.
Caro, I had a question.
Yeah, Sophia.
About the work of art that you showed with the timing. Was there any special system to clear out the air? Because wouldn't you have commingling of scents then? Or
that's a good question. This is not, I don't know, but what does happen is that at a certain point, after 7 minutes, you adapt to a smell. And then if a new smell is introduced, you will not smell the old smell anymore because you have adapted. Mm-hmm. So the new smell becomes the only thing you perceive. It's just like color. When you wear a red glasses for too long and you take it off, everything looks green. Or maybe it's slightly different, but I think you get the picture. It's only after, if you would go out and then neutralize and then go back in, then you would smell all the smells. So I actually don't think it was a problem.
Does that mean that the people who sat there for the whole time that the artwork was going for that hour, that they would stop smelling the smell?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would have happened. Yeah. No one can smell the same smell for an hour. No. And that's, for example, the reason why a certain odorant was added to natural gas called mercaptan, because that's one of the few smells we do not adapt to. So we keep smelling that one, which is an indication of danger. So the lavender field, again, in a very geometric shape. And what's beautiful about this, when you enter the museum, even without knowing that you're already perceiving a work of art, you're inhaling this smell of lavender. So the dichotomy, nature and reality and art is, well, it's one in the case of Herman The Freeze. And then the last olfactory artist I want to talk about who makes floor pieces is, who knows? Who happens to recognize this image? Perhaps Job
Koelewijn.
Yeah, Job Koelewijn. And he's an internationally esteemed artist. He's very popular in China. And here he had his own family from Spakenburg, a very traditional town in the Netherlands, clean the art academy. And that was his exam piece. Because of course it looks amazing, but they use very traditional soap. So imagine what it might have smelled like and how surreal, because it was so out of place. That's what makes it so amazing. Job Koelewijn is also the artist who created this incredible piece. So not on the floor, but on the walls. And it's called Broken White. And it's completely made of baby powder. So it looks like boards, wooden boards, but it's baby powder that he kind of, how do you say that?
Blue.
Yeah, he just pushed the baby powder on the bowl and it keeps sticking. So his idea is, how interesting is it when your sense of sight contradicts with your sense of smell? You walk in, you think, hey, these are wooden boards, and you smell. Let's smell the baby powder. Did you get the Zwitsal baby powder or a different baby powder?
Out of the babies.
Yeah. Zwitsal actually smells of, that's a typical Dutch baby powder, smells of lily of the valley. So you walk in, you smell this, something that in the words of the artist reminds you of softness, not the harshness of wooden boards. So again, just like in the case of the peanut butter floor, people want to touch it. They want to know, what is this? And they touch it and then it crumbles, it falls apart, just like a butterfly that you damage the moment you touch it. And the artist wants you to touch it, but the curators do not want you to touch it. So, yeah. By the way, Frank, I know you made a peanut butter suitcase. Could people touch it? Were people allowed to touch it?
I don't know. They didn't touch it. I think they didn't dare to, but I don't mind if they did.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Can you explain a bit what it was? The peanut butter?
It was part of an artwork that consisted of a kitchen cabinet smells. It was a suitcase from what's the brand of the 80s? You had this plastic suitcases that stewardesses used all the time.
Samsonite.
Yeah, Samsonite. So it is a Samsonite suitcase. I took everything that was on the inside out, and I covered it with peanut butter as kind of an ode to Wim Schippers. And it was placed on a circle made from rice crackers, very big circle of rice crackers. And the peanut butter suitcase was on top of that. And there was a small table with a room fountain that had mandarin smell. It's all smells that when somebody is in the train eating a peanut butter sandwich or a rice cracker or a mandarin, the smell fills the whole train and people are annoyed by it. Most of the time, and the thing is, the strange thing is that when you create the smell yourself, you like it.
Yeah.
If you create the smell, you hate it.
Isn't that always the thing?
Isn't it always, well, sometimes it's nice to smell some perfume on somebody else.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But when you create it, it's always good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, even if you created it in the smallest room of the house.
Yes.
It's yours.
That's what my son always says. He's really enjoying it himself.
Yeah, and it's important. It's very important to smell your own shit because it tells you something about your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe the Dutch are a bit preoccupied. They're kind of preoccupied with feces.
With smell?
Yeah, with feces. Yeah.
Why the Dutch?
The Dutch, yeah, they are, because our toilets, they have this landing place where the material lands. In other countries, it just ends in the water immediately. But we have this plateau, this pedestal, so we can look at it and smell it. It's not normal.
There's a name for that pot.
Okay.
It's called a vlakspoeler.
Okay.
Which is in English a flat flusher.
Flat flusher.
A flat flusher. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only in Holland, Germany, and Poland.
Oh. Wow, you are.
It's not a viewing platform.
The invisible man.
Yeah, it's only here in these 3 countries.
Wow. And you
The rest of the world has plunge toilets. Yeah.
plunge
Why do you know
toilets.
this?
A book.
By the way, I see that I'm way over time. Probably people tried to signal me and say and gave me signs, but I didn't receive them. Sorry. So I'm going to finish up the final floor piece by Job Koelewijn. So again, a piece on the floor, beautiful. This is just colored sand mixed with eucalyptus. And I once helped to install this work of art. One tiny inner circle cost me an hour. And that's what this work of art is about. It's about, well, meditation, paying attention, patience, because these are mandalas. It takes patience to create these sand mandalas. And they're installed on a book by Baruch Spinoza, the philosopher, De Ethica, a very complicated hermetic book. So the idea of Job Koelewijn was, if I read this book and I smell eucalyptus, did you find eucalyptus or Vicks Vapo Rub? And I smell eucalyptus at the same time. Yeah, this is what the artwork smelled of. Oh yeah, this is what Job Koelewijn literally said about this scent. It opens up your airways, but also your mind. It really opens up everything. And his idea was, if I smell this while reading Spinoza, I'll understand it much better. And the next time I open the book and I smell again, I will immediately be in the same atmosphere as the last time where I stopped last time. So it will be more accessible, that book. And you see the pages of that book spread out on the floor. So why do Dutch people do this? Why do Dutch artists make so many floor pieces? Well, for starters, it's very practical. If you have material like sand, you can simply pour it on the floor. It's very effective because smells rise, scents rise, but it's also a very old Dutch tradition to make carpets of sand. This happened in the 18th and 19th century. The richer farmers would strew sand on the floor. And there's also this tradition of strewing herbs. It also exists in the UK, for sure. And usually this was done with meadowsweet or moerasspirea, which has a very hay-like sweet smell. And this was also thrown on the floor. So these clean floors, that's a very modern concept of cleanliness and floors. No, let's just cover the floors with fragrant material, because when you step on it, the smells, will open and go to your noses. Thank you very much. This was supposed to be a bit shorter, but thanks for sticking with me. I hope you'll be there next week and the week after that. And are there any questions in the meantime?
I've got homework. Is there some homework?
Homework, yeah, start smelling everything in your kitchen. Yeah, start smelling everything in your kitchen. Start eating things with your nose closed. And then open it, see what happens.
We've got a Bora. It's a vacuum system with cooking. And it makes us less better in the kitchen because it takes all the
scent downwards.
Yes.
It takes the scent downwards instead of crossing your nose to the vent, to the afzuigkap. It stays down, so we can't smell it anymore.
We never thought about it.
Yeah, and that's bad, right? It's not good. Yeah.
We sometimes burn stuff.
Because you can't smell that it's burning.
Yeah.
So that's very dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
That system.
And expensive. Yeah.
Does anyone else have a question or remark?
Sorry.
That's a very good remark, Kim.
Yeah, it's what I think of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're so odor-phobic. We're so afraid of smells, but they're so important.
Yeah,
We
and
keep
we thought about
deodorizing.
viewing. We thought viewing no, we didn't want to have a big thing in our kitchen anymore.
Yeah, so your sense of sight prevailed, but now you found out that your nose is more important than your eyes. Yeah, that's a beautiful take-home message.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and hope to see you. Yeah, sure.
Can I ask you one question about the eucalyptus? How did they, what kind of eucalyptus did they use? Did they use oil or leaves, and how did they do it on the floor?
Yeah, what I did a studio visit, and what Job Koelewijn had was actually, it was not eucalyptus. He calls it eucalyptus, but it was actually menthol crystals. So they're also very fresh, right? And these menthol crystals, he mixed with the sand.
Menthol, yeah.
Yeah, menthol crystals. And then he poured those in the mandalas. But in the end, when the smell starts to become too faint, he does use essential oil of eucalyptus just at the outer borders.
Oh, yeah.
Because you cannot walk on it, of course.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no more questions, it was great having you this smell hour. And thanks. It was nice to have you, Anna, and everyone.
Thank you
really
so
great
much.
to have you. Hope to see you next week.
Till next week.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.